Welcome, I'm your host KB, and I would like to introduce you to industry professionals and people who successfully made their path to the video game industry. I hope that you will enjoy the podcast and get useful tips that will bring you closer to achieving your dreams. Now, let's get right into the podcast.
Yeah, so welcome to the Game Dev Tea Time podcast. It's an edition of the Game Dev.tv podcast, and I'm happy to have you guys on. And if you can introduce yourself a little bit to the fans and to explain what the game is, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so we are a BitNine Studio, and we are a small Italian indie dev team. Our makeup is only of 3 people.
Wow.
And today you will have 2 of us here. Me, Andrea Leoni. I'm the story writer for Terrorbane, the game we're going to talk about. And Luca Spazzoli is our lead programmer. So you'll have both the story and the code accounted for. We started out as a small indie developer that made games for mobiles, mainly. And here we are today presenting Terrorbane, which is a very strange game and our most ambitious project to date. It's a game about bugs. Let me just quickly tell you the premise for this game. Imagine there's a developer, and it's not us, it's a character inside the game you interact with directly. And imagine he just forces you to play this game he's made, and he explains to you that this game he's made is the best game ever made, ever. And he forces you to play and test it. But you quickly discover that this developer is not very good at his job, and he's filled his own creation with bugs and glitches, and nothing ever works as intended in a very hilarious and comedic way.
Wow. I love that idea. I watched the trailer and I was like, this is genius, because it's like taking something you're used to, like a JRPG, and then just turning it upside down and saying it's not what you think it is. And then you can use like assets and sprites around the world to do certain things. So I love that. So first of all, I want to get, where did that idea even come from? Like how did this even happen? You guys were just thinking about it, like, what if we made a game where you help the developer fix the game?
The very idea is part, as the most interesting stuff in life, is part embarrassing and part hilarious. By
mistake too.
And by mistake too. Yeah, I let Luca explain exactly what happened.
Yeah, basically, as Andrea mentioned before, we started from developing some mobile games, and basically we didn't have a background in game development, so we were just starting using our main engine, that is Unity, and we were learning while doing. So we didn't know exactly how to do things, and many bugs, actual bugs, were filled. We filled the game with, and then we thought, well, since they are so funny and we laugh at them when they happen, why don't we create a game that is based on those as a core gameplay
mechanic? Especially the most important part is that we think bugs have an inherent kind of potential for comedy. And so as we noticed that those bugs that happened floated around our office space and became memes in our little circle, we kind of understood that something clicked, and we said, let's make this the core of our game.
Now I'm curious, is this like early on in the process, or is this like kind of deep in and you were like, wow, we really got to switch this around?
It was very early on. It was way back when, in 2016, when we first prototyped the first Terrorbane, and it was already based around that concept.
Yeah.
Awesome. And now, before we continue on with the game, I want to ask you guys, both of you, what was your experience and how did you get started with game dev? What was the moment you were like, I'm going to go make games for the rest of my life?
Actually, I got dragged inside this life. There's a member of our team that is not present today, and he is my brother, Matteo. He's our graphic designer, and he, with Luca, started BitNine Studio first. And they started out making games. They had this idea of trying out, of putting together their knowledge. Luca is an engineer, and Matteo is a graphic designer in his other job too, his day job. And so since we've always been players, avid players, to be honest, in our childhood and throughout our adulthood too, they kind of wanted to try out this way. And I got dragged inside when they first came around with the idea for Terrorbane, because they needed a story, they needed a setting, they needed characters, and that is my specialty. And so it was all kind of driven by instinct in some way.
Yeah, okay. How about you, Luca?
Yeah. We basically, as I mentioned, we didn't have a specific background. We
Mhm.
were just started from those kind of games that were arcade-ish game, and so we wanted to do something more structured, something that could actually be considered a full game, a commercial one for PC and consoles. And so our idea started with this concept, and with this, it was our goal after all.
Mm-hmm. And so if you look at your programmer, right? Did you do
Yeah.
programming before you got into games, or was it more just like together? You were like, I want to be a gameplay programmer.
No, I actually I was finished my studies
Mhm.
back then when we started, and I basically started with this. We didn't do that full time since 2016. Yeah, that is the main reason why the development took so long, because it was not our full-time job back then. And right now with the game we just released, we hope that we will continue doing so.
I hope so too. And then I want to also ask, so about the starting the game as you got out of doing your studies, how did you feel about just getting out of school and starting a game? Did you feel confident? Did you feel like you weren't sure, you needed to do a lot of like studying? Like how did you feel about your confidence level, and how did you go through that?
The
Well,
first reaction, oh, sorry.
no, go on.
The first reaction was, I think, having fun, at least for me. We went to conventions, showing up our game. We've always been very oriented in our comedy kind of style, so we've always been laughing with the players. It's been fantastic in that regard. I don't think any one of us had the audacity to say we're confident we'll make this be a complete success. We were ready to learn right from the get-go, because we had no prior knowledge of what would mean to create a game. And so that's the way we approached everything. Learning is an integral part of growing in any job, and we think it was very, very important for Terrorbane. It is a game that jumps from gameplay to gameplay, so we certainly had to look to other examples a lot and study other games a lot to make it happen.
Awesome. And then what were you going to say, Luca?
Yeah, we were driven, as Andrea mentioned, by passion, and we wanted to create something that players hopefully never played before, or at least not in this way. So since as far as we know, indie games can propose something different that maybe AAA titles have not the possibility to do. So if you are an indie game and you want to create something new, then you can, I think. And so that's the main reason why we started a game such different from the others.
From others, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely its own thing, and I think that's what makes it stand out. It makes everybody want to go jump in and get it. Because I'm just watching some of the stuff before we got on this call, and I was like, "Wow, that's intriguing." And I saw you guys were playing it, and it was like there was that one enemy where it was like a bunch of them, and then one guy I think ran away, and you were like, "Why did you run away?" And I was like, "This is so much fun." So now, Andrea, I wanted to ask you when was the moment when you were like, I know how to write for games and not just to write? Because I know people be like, I want to be a writer for games, but it's like, how do you start? How do you go about that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, to be completely honest, I think I never had the moment where I thought of myself as a writer before coming into a game, into game writing. I'm the youngest of the team, and so I was right in university when all of this happened. And my background is actually in translation, to be honest, and English being my principal concern in university. And but I've always had this passion for creating worlds, or well, or playing D&D, even being a game master and all of that, creating characters, worlds, and settings. And my brother and Luca encouraged me to try out, and I did, and it all went very, very well. And so yes, Terrorbane is my first experience as a writer, full-fledged writer, published writer. And again, I did not approach this with the idea of being able to for it to be a complete success. I wanted to learn. I wanted to do something that I loved, because I truly did find out that I loved it. And yeah, hopefully people will enjoy it too.
And was it like, was it hard at first, since it was your first game? Were you like, wow, this is not as easy as I thought? Or like what tips would you give for someone starting out and doing games like you did?
It was kind of hard to figure out exactly the amount of writing a game needs. For example, dialogues in our game need to be very simple, precise, and to the point, but they also need to be funny. So striking the balance on just how many words to put into a sentence and exactly how to make it funny every step of the way was very, very exciting and very difficult to grasp. I think the thing I would like to say to other people who want to try the very same thing is be open to critique, be open to listening to the people that are playing your game. I would go to conventions, have them see my work, have them tell me what was funny and what was not, and then go back and change it.
Well, that's good advice. Yeah. Especially when it comes to like taking feedback. Like some people be like, oh no, my work's perfect, or like I don't need feedback, I'll just improve on my own. And it's like,
No.
it's like no, you need it.
No, it's been a big part of our development, the convention and talking to people, let them playing the game, fixed and adjust the game to their feedbacks, what they consider funny, what they did not, what they were able to play, the puzzles we created, if they were understandable or not, and also the enthusiasm and the feedbacks of those events kept us going for so long, because as we mentioned, we didn't have a background, so we kind of adjust our game design according to the feedbacks.
No, that's genius, because then you're getting the feedback from people who are really passionate about the game and being like, hey, maybe you do have a point about this game design feature, let's tweak it, test it, see what works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so when it came to these bugs that started popping up, how did you turn the bugs into like optimized code where it's not really a bug in the programming, but it's a bug in the game?
Well, some of them were not actually let's say code bugs, codes related bugs, but maybe just for example, I can give you an example. In the first level of the game, we forgot to add the colliders to some of the NPC you find, and so the main characters that you move around the world, hit them and let them spin around and and go away and exit from the map, and so on. So those were not actual code error, but maybe something in the game engine that we didn't know back then.
And it was kind of part of a process to determine, well, to make sure that the bugs we put in the game were not real bugs, that they could not break the game. So there was discovering maybe some bugs that were real and putting them into the game as a feature, but most of them were designed from a design board, from a brainstorm. And so it was difficult to communicate to the player. And it was also exciting to find ways to communicate to the player that we're joking, that it's not really a bug, but it's also making fun of buggy games outside of and in the history of video games. And it was very exciting, very difficult, but very exciting.
And I love the comedy. Did you guys all brainstorm the comedy together for the game? Because even the trailer where it starts off, the devs like, this is it, the game's gonna be great, you don't even need to watch this video. Like, did you guys just brainstorm that together, or was that like just you and Andrea?
The design of the game has been shared. Every single situation, every single bug, we've designed together. All of the dialogue and the personality of the characters I wrote. So in a way, the textual kind of comedy is my own. But the comedy of the game is a mixture of our three minds together.
Gotcha. Well, you guys are hilarious together.
Yeah.
You making games.
We hope so, at least.
Hope so, at least.
And so, look, I was curious, when it comes to programming a game, did you ever have moments where you had to be the one working on things, because if you didn't have the systems built, they couldn't really go in and build the game? How'd you guys revolve around that? Because I know I have someone who's like, they have to build the stuff for then the artist to go and add the stuff in, the game designers to build the levels. Like, how did you guys work through that?
Well, sometimes after the game design phases, I had to limit some of the thoughts and the ideas that we had to make it feasible for just one person.
Yeah, probably like so many ideas.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And
Fancy
being a team of just 3 people, do so that we have one programmer, one that makes the graphics, and one that makes the story. So we need to focus our resources to create something that is the best we can. But of course, we don't have the manpower to do all the things that we designed. So
I'd like to add that we did do a lot of things that we thought of doing.
Yeah. Of course.
We did not limit ourselves that much. We went the extra mile. Let's say that we took the time to be able to create something that we really liked. Of course, we had to contend with our limited size, I think. But within those constraints, we pulled no punches. Hopefully that is reflected in the game.
And for anybody who wants to work on a game, like a small team like you guys, what advice would you give them? Like, what are some struggles you went through and how'd you get over that?
I'd say never underestimate the amount of non-developer work a developer needs to do. There is a whole other world around just making the game. You need to find a way to market the game. You need to find a way to communicate with your community. You need to find a way to communicate with third parties. For example, find a publisher. That takes away a lot of time and energy, and it requires very specific knowledge. And it can mean the difference between life and death in your game, even if it's very good.
Yeah, because if you don't get the business side of the game, then sure, you make a great game, but if nobody knows about it, nobody buys it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So was there ever moments where you guys were had let's say dark times or like harsh winters where you were like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work out, or we might not be able to make it through this quarter. How can we get through this? And how did you guys push through that?
Yeah, I believe we had some of those during the process, because maybe we didn't have the capabilities and the expertise to reach so many people. So we didn't have actually many response from, I don't know, our social media or the website, or people who downloaded the demo, for example, in the early phase of the development. And so we maybe sometimes we thought, well, maybe this game is not so as funny as we think if we can't attract so many people. But then we understood that it was in fact our lack of expertise. Marketing is not our field. We don't have a background in marketing, and that's what we looked for more than I believe 2 or 3 years. A real publisher. We pitched the game every time we could, both in person and also online, especially in the last couple of years, where of course convention were not a thing anymore, and we had to do it that online. But this also helped us in some ways, because we had the opportunity to attend to some events we wouldn't be able to attend physically, and so that was given us by our publisher in the last year. That is Whisper Games. It's a Chinese publisher that believed in our game and helped us. So that marketing was not our concern anymore.
Yeah, and we managed to reach our audience finally.
That's awesome. Now, so let me guess. Was there like a lot of publishers you guys went to, and a lot of them said like no, and then you finally found that one?
There were so many, I cannot count. I think I spent 3 years of just mailing everybody and meeting everybody in a call and explaining the game over and over. And it was very, very difficult and very painful at times, when you would think nobody wants this game, until someone finally did believe in us. And it was all for the better, because the game had something to say, and it was good.
Yeah, I don't think it was the idea of the game that scared them, but maybe our team itself that never published a game before. So we were unknown, and basically the development was not over yet. Maybe we didn't give them enough opportunities to let them trust us and our work, and so that maybe scared them. We often been said, yes, the game itself, it's good, the idea is great, it is very funny, but then they didn't propose our idea, so it all stopped there.
It would all stop there, yeah.
So how did you guys convince them? Like, how did you know? Did you know, have a feeling when you went into the room, like, these people, they want it, I know they do, and you just spoke with your heart? Or like, did they have like tons of questions, you're like, no, like, believe in us, like, convince? Like, how did the pitch go for that one that made it?
To be completely honest, in the end, they found us.
Oh, really? No way.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
We finally went out and published the demo on Steam. And
like, we're doing it on our own.
On our own, exactly. And then they emailed us, because a member of their team had played the game and had described it as kamige, which in Japanese means a great game. And this convinced them so completely of the idea that they wanted to sign with us. And we really thought about it before saying yes. We went around and discussed the terms of the deal many times. It wasn't just easy as writing us, but in the end, I think it was the best possible outcome ever, and I'm very happy it happened. It did require a lot of effort, however.
Yeah. Initially, we were a little scared about some feature that they wanted to add to the game, since we are a small team, as we said. So, for example, the game originally didn't have the voiceover, was not translated in so many languages, and didn't have the support for the controller. And there are all features that they wanted to add to the game, but we didn't know back then if we would have been able to do those things. So,
especially since your first game. Yeah, it's like
one programmer.
Yeah, and that's
programmer, which is a lot of pressure.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah,
But then you
the
guys, pushed through and were able to make it happen.
We did. We kind of used the trick.
Oh, okay.
The
What's the trick?
voiceover for the game was
Yeah.
the feature that we were scared the most about, because it would require a studio, it would require an external third party again, and we would have to contend with putting up many languages in the game at the same time, putting many files over that would read the lines over those many languages. It would have been very difficult to be able to do this all together. And so I remember one night I went to the other guys and I said, listen, people, I can speak English decently. I'll do the voice of the developer. And I did. And it worked. We did it internally. I am not a native speaker. I think it's reflected in the game. I think it's easy to notice, but people seem to like the voice of the developer, and I've been doing it ever since, even though it was not our original plan, and it worked out.
Wow. It's basically any obstacle you guys got thrown at, you just found a way to like just solve it and then make it add value to the story, to the game. So like even like your voice, you were like, maybe because I'm not a native speaker, but now it adds to something sort of dev, like it's this like confident voice where it's just like, oh yeah, the game's perfect. You don't need to worry about it. And it's like, I don't know, there might be some bugs in it.
Yeah.
Well, you described it pretty well. I think that actually happened. Yeah.
I love it. And so I want to know how many iterations of this game were, like when you had like, this is the idea for the game, and then working for those, how many years has it been? 6 now? 6 years?
Yeah.
Being like, okay, wow, I can't believe we had this at the beginning and now this is what it turned into. And like, maybe what's your personal experience with this game? And like, how do you guys feel about the release?
You first, Luca.
Well, maybe what I saw very differently from 2016 when we started and the full game that is now released are the complexity of the bugs we included, because the initial bugs we thought about were basically glitch, error, graphical ones maybe. They were very simple. And instead, going on with the development, we found out that we had to do something. We couldn't repeat ourselves, so we had to make those very complex, not dependent from one another. And so, yeah, I think bug complexity is much bigger in the second part of the game mainly. Yeah.
It's kind of a process. I think you nailed it on the head. Since we were learning so much during our journey through this game, I think the game also reflects that in a way. You can almost feel us growing as people in our shoes as we go through the game, and you keep on meeting new areas that are bigger and more complex. This is kind of a double-edged sword, because we also needed to make sure we kept on we kept up with our own rules for how bugs should be found and how bugs should behave in the game. And so this complexity kind of turned into a constraint at a certain point, because bugs needed to be exclusive from one another so that you could replay the game and find different things. But then the areas were bigger, and so there were less bugs. You would find less bugs in certain levels. And so we had to adjust all of that a lot, but we've kind of grown in our role, and it was a very beautiful journey in some way.
Oh, definitely. And I like how you said that the constraint, like the whole creating bugs became a constraint, because it's like, yeah, you need it all to make sense too at some point. You can't just throw random bugs. But I guess that's kind of part of it too. Like maybe some bugs can be random because bugs are random.
Yeah.
But I can see where they can get a little difficult. Is there any other constraints you have where you were like, oh no, like this at one point we could do whatever we want, but now as you get far in the game, you're like, wait a minute, we need to make sure this all makes sense?
There is one main thing. Our development cycle was long, and I think it's mainly due to the fact that we have made a comedy game, and so comedy needs to stay fresh. And to make sure that the comedy would stay fresh throughout the experience, we had to jump from gameplay to gameplay and change settings, characters, and things throughout your journey through the game. To do that would mean not being able to stick to a single concept gameplay wise and reiterate and make it more complex throughout the game. It would mean basically having a lot of concepts that you need to explain to the player, you need to make sure they work, and you cannot go deep in any of them. And in a way, this makes the game very unique. In another way, it makes it shallower, in a sense. You cannot go deep in any of our mechanic. That is to keep the comedy fresh and to keep you from guessing what comes next. But it also comes back at us as, well, this game is never very deep in gameplay.
Yeah, we basically started from consolidated genres that has strict rules and people know about those, and they expect something from those. And we wanted to play with the expectation, and we wanted to create a game that people can recognize. But then we broke those rules, and we let them see that something really strange happened when you do it. So we in the game there's a platform, there's an interactive fiction, there are mini games like WarioWare, and so that obviously makes so that the development was long, because we had to learn all those things. But then I think that it also worked out for us.
Yeah, it also became a strength of the game.
You guys are good at that, turning in like certain moments that could have been a weakness into a huge strength. And I love that. I don't know if that's
Thank
like,
you.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, no, because like, I wonder if there's a way you can maybe explain how to do that. I don't know if that's even possible, but how can you turn these moments into strengths? I know there's a book called like The Obstacles Away, like turning these moments into the actual thing that's going to make the game better. But like, how could you maybe internalize that into like, hey, you're new at making games. This moment, don't give up. Turn this into that, and this is how we did it. I don't know if you guys would answer that or not.
It's very much bottling the thunder. It's not easy to answer this question. I think the best way I can describe what it was for us is we really wanted to make this game, and we made it. We did not make it following our wildest desires. We had a plan. We wanted to stick to something that would be enjoyable for other people, not only for us. But we made only those compromises that were tied to our resources, to our possibilities, not compromises with what we wanted the game to be. It's probably the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't think it would be a really definite answer, but just want to know your thoughts. And then also that makes me want to ask about how did you guys plan out this game? Because like you said, you didn't start it as your full-time job. So was it just like, hey guys, we'll work on it whenever we have free time? And then when did it become like, no guys, we need to do this like full-time, like we need to leave our jobs?
I think it never actually became our profession yet.
Gotcha. This is more just like a fun hobby, see what happens. Maybe we'll
kind of a middle ground.
Okay.
We've been working on Sundays and Saturdays since 2017, I think, because we believe so much in the fact that we can make this a job, a full job. But as we've described a bit before, it was a very long journey just to find a publisher that would help us reach our audience. Then the audience would need to play the game and tell us what they feel about the game. And only then will we be able to conquer the obstacle of finally becoming a video game studio for real. We had to sustain this through a lot of time, and we did so by having those ways, like a full-time job and then going home and working again, and all those sacrifices that needs to be made, especially if you're unknown like us. We were driven by the reaction of the people. We were driven by our idea of doing something that was funny and good and made people feel fun. Fun. And this propelled us to where we are. It was all very progressive.
Well, from my point of view, it all started to get serious when we signed with our publisher last year, and we started to have something that we didn't have before, like milestone timelines and those things that
this is serious.
It became much more structured, and that what we were looking for and we needed, because of course when you have timelines, when you have to do something within a time limit, you need to get things done, and you need to do it in time. So that is the time I realized that it was closer to a job, a real profession than before.
And now for the other developer, was he more focused on art, your brother?
Yeah.
Music? Gotcha. Okay. So when did you guys finalize the art style? Like, because this art style is out of this world.
Thank you. I'll be sure to tell Matteo, because
thank you.
I also think he's very good with design.
Yes,
of course, it's not for me to say, it's for players to say, but I still think so. The art style is, like many other things in the game, very personal. We did choose Final Fantasy as our main, how do you call it? Our main reference for the style, and we chose JRPG as the main genre we would spoof the hell out of. Partially because we're very long time fans of the series, but also because it is kind of what, in the mind of everyone, is the first project any developer would make. An RPG maker RPG game, the very first thing a fledgling developer would try out. And so we kind of did this consciously at the start. We said, this is the first project of a fictional developer. It needs to look like a fictional, like a JRPG. That was our idea back then.
I see that there's a presentation you guys might have done in 2016, or now that's an interesting thing I wanted to touch on. So what's it like preparing for something like that? And how did you go into that? Like, did you have any anxiety, or is it just like, I'm just going to present my game, and if you guys like it, you like it? Like, because I know some people get afraid of that. So like, how'd you go from, I'm going to sit at home and make this game, to I'm going to share it now to the world? And how did you deal with those struggles?
I'm sorry if I'm talking right now, but it kind of passed through me instead of the other two, because I was the main spokesperson for the team, especially in English contexts. And I think we went through a lot of stress, of anxiety. Presenting things in public is always difficult. But we pushed through them. I think we found out that the more we did them, the more we learned, the more we kept on growing. And at a certain point, it became so natural to present the game that I now don't have to prepare for it. It rolls out of my tongue. Nobody knows your game best than you. So you're the best person to present it. You just need to go there, do it a lot of times, and then it becomes natural.
Mhm. You made a good point.
Yeah, luckily it all started, we proceeded in small steps. So we started to present the game in very small event here where next to where we live. So and then we started to do much bigger convention and presentation, and so it was a natural process, I would say, something that kept growing with us. And at the beginning it was not really easy, but then it started to be much more. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so I see that the game is on Switch and like Steam and PC. So did you guys optimize for it to be on PC first and then Switch, or because when the publisher came in, or was it always like I want this on all consoles, but right now we're only doing PC?
It actually started as a PC project.
Mm-hmm.
Because in 2016 Nintendo Switch was not even a thing yet, but we were given access to the Nintendo Switch very early in the following year, in 2017. Here in Italy, we went to a convention, we talked to Nintendo, and they gave us access. So from that moment, it became the most important platform for us, and it was a dream that was becoming true to publish a game for Nintendo. So yeah, it started for PC, but then we moved to Switch.
Another contributing factor to our constant reassurance of the game. But also a point where we had to put aside our fear of presenting the game in front of a very serious
Publisher
spokesperson for Nintendo, and we presented the game. We gulped down our own insecurities, presented the game, managed to get this great opportunity, and it was very important for us.
So I'm guessing that all those presentations before led up and practice to get to where you needed to be when Nintendo guy was like, hey, come in and explain the game. You're like, I've done this before, just do it again.
Exactly.
Isn't that crazy how that works?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh, life works mysterious ways. Hey, but it works out for you guys. And that's just, I guess this is what happens when you put yourself out there, when you practice, and eventually those skills that you learned will be needed later on. And if you didn't put yourself out there, you wouldn't have been ready. So it's like, just, I guess, always go out there and do it, even if you're afraid. Put yourself out there. Because actually, how did that even like stumble upon that the Switch? Did you guys reach out? Did they reach out to you? How did that go?
Oh, they were present at the event.
Oh, okay.
In Milan, we've got a huge conference for Italy. It's very regional, but all the big third parties, Sony, Epic, and Nintendo and Microsoft, all are there, and they receive
our pitch
studios and then from Italy, and they receive pitches for projects and try to find out collaborations. And one of those pitches was ours, and it worked out.
Did you know that day that you were going to do that pitch? Or it was like, oh, they're here, let's do it? Or was it like a plan?
No, we actually knew it, because we had the opportunity to send the pitch before the event to those, and then we were booked an appointment with them.
We did not believe any one of them would pick us, and most of them did not, but Nintendo did. And as we were attending the event, then came the message that we would be received. And
wow.
I believe that all started from the art style of the game, that they thought it was very good for their platform. Maybe PlayStation or Xbox wanted something more realistic, more up to date, let's say, as a graphic design. But Nintendo was perfect for us, and they wanted it on Switch.
You're like, let's do it. I'm curious, what you guys think? What's the best gaming experience, a PC or on a Switch? Or are they both the same?
Gaming is gaming. I love it all. I think some of the best games I've played are on both platforms. Zelda, Breath of the Wild, the new Mario. They are some of my favorite games ever. And I have a deep respect for Nintendo. I always had it. But in reality, I'm a very convinced PC Master Race player. I,
Of
I know
course,
all
yeah.
the news.
The
I have all my
master-
lights.
Oh, the
My-
RGB
Yeah.
lights, same.
Yeah, of course.
You get, get the RGB keyboard too. Why not have everything RGB? Hmm. No, but okay, I like that because it's just like I like the Switch where you can go anywhere with it, but then you got the PC where it's like, but it does everything better. So what do I want?
Yeah,
It's
faster
you're
and
spoiled for choice.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
I never was much for wars in consoles or other things like that. Games are games; they're always good, and I just enjoy them.
Mhm. I like that. Yeah, the console war thing is, I get the competition part, but when people are like, no, Xbox is always better and PlayStation's, I'm like, they're all working together. They all do the same thing, really. Like, you don't need to hate someone for liking PlayStation because that's when it gets crazy when people are divided
Yeah.
like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
calm down a little
Yeah.
bit. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Agree.
Now, I see there was a lot of Easter eggs maybe in the game. Like, how did you guys implement that? And I heard it was like some games from like back then, like other old 8-bit games. So what was the process in bringing these Easter eggs, and what was that like? Was it like, let's bring all these favorite games we had back then and like try to put them in these games?
It was kind of instinct there.
Mm-hmm.
We had as I've said, we're very avid players. We have a knowledge of that resulted in a childhood spent playing games and recommending them to each other. And we've played a lot. I especially am the most culpable here. I have a huge amount of games. I've played a lot. And I think all of those references are somewhere in our minds, planted there waiting, and each of them trickled into the game in some way. It was very chaotic the way we planted those references in the game. It wasn't even the main goal of the game to have a lot of references. It just was, I think, the idea of creating that nostalgia for the game to find in Terrorbane, that you can play it and say, "Ooh, I know what you did there. Ooh, I know that you know." And so there is a connection that is created by finding these references. They're all taken from our past, our present, at very random.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. We also stayed up to date with the titles that were released during the development. We
Yeah.
added some reference to Fortnite, for example, to Among Us.
No way.
Of course, yeah.
Oh, I gotta
Yeah,
go find them
yeah.
now.
We didn't want the game to be understood only by nostalgic players or let's say older players, but also from the new ones, the new players.
I'm curious to know what the Among Us and Fortnite Easter egg are. That's gonna
There's
be
an entire bug dedicated.
Well,
to
we can give you an hint if you want.
nah, I'll keep it a
Nah,
secret.
better
That way I
just-
can. Yeah,
Okay.
I like secrets.
Okay.
I also like the meme you guys made where it says there's no bugs in Terrorbane, and it's the Julie from where I think it's not Julie, the lady from Boston saying Avatar. It's funny you guys keep putting 100% bug free, like tricking everybody, and then they open the game. They're like, wait a minute,
Wait.
they said it was
Yeah.
bug free.
Yeah.
So the game got released, wasn't it a couple weeks ago?
Couple days ago. It
Yeah.
was released on the 1st of April.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
5 days ago.
how's it
Yeah.
been? How does it feel to release the final full
It's
game,
been
Switch,
A
PC?
lot of work.
No
Yeah.
way.
More work than before.
What? Why
It's
these
incredible.
interviews? These
It was kind of scary for a lot of it. I enjoyed it, but it was also scary in the fact that we were being judged. And
Ooh,
this
yeah.
game is very personal. So we put a lot of ourselves in it. And when people give you those very bad reviews, it hurts. but it's part of the game. It's part of what it means to be a developer. I think you should, it's important to look at all those reviews that are genuinely touched and moved by the game. It's important to make games because it's important to make games, not because of the reviews or the sales or anything else. That is our general view, of course. We also want to live off of this job, so we do care for how they go commercially, but deep down, we make games because we love doing it. And that's the most important part for us. As long as we are making something that communicates, something that is well made technically, it is a work of art. It is our work of art. It is our adding to the tapestry. And so I think that's the most important thing.
Looks like you guys got like a 93% positive.
Positive, yeah.
Yeah, there's only like maybe 4.
Andrea is mainly focused on the bad reviews, but fortunately they are just I believe 5.
They're 5.
There's 5.
Yeah.
3 are in Chinese or Japanese, and then 2 are English.
We give a big value to the player feedback. We have a Discord channel where we answer to those and all the issues that they found. We try to stay with them and to help them. But one thing we noticed that they already started to help each other. Maybe there's someone that comes and say, I can find this bug, can you help me? And we don't actually need to help them because they were already helped by someone else. That's great. I think that one of the best thing I saw in this day. There were hard days. We were, as Andrea mentioned, a bit scared, and also we have the publisher with their feedback, the marketing agency with their feedback, and something that they need us to do. We also already released 3 patches for the game.
3 patches already?
Two for PC and 1 for Switch. Of course, they are minor things. They are translation, little errors or something like that. It's not much of a deal, but of course the work was hard. We spent working, of course, the last weekend, but I think that it's all rewarding, very rewarding.
Yeah, and also just shows that like we always hung on to the negative, but like there's 77 people who love it, and it's probably the ratio is always going to be higher that people like it more than they don't. And even for some of the bad reviews, it's like it just didn't vibe with them. You know, some people don't have the same humor. Seems like it's just this one person didn't find it funny, and the other one was like, I didn't even put them in the hours of the game. It's like, okay, maybe you didn't like this part and this part of the first like 40 minutes, but like there's so much time to put into the game. Like you could have, but you know, it is what it is. It is
what it is.
Yeah,
it's part of the deal. You can't have the entire human spectrum like your game. Of course, it's still painful when someone tells you, I just don't find you. I find your voice irritating. That is terrible to hear, but it's normal. I think. It's completely normal, and you need to prepare yourself for that when you approach this job, because it's part of the job. It's really much part of the job.
Yeah.
And so, just for anybody who's going to make their game and release it, how do you deal with that? Do you just like ignore it? Do you take it into consideration, or you just say it's part of the job?
Not an easy answer. I'd say if you think you've done a great job and you are technically sure that your game is stable, your game is well done, you listen to the feedback, to the critique, and you take it at face value for what it is, because you need that information. You need to know where you went wrong, where your design was not the best for the future. But you need to think about the future, not it as something that should keep you anchored to the present. You did something that some people did not enjoy. Next time you'll do better. And you should prepare yourself mentally before releasing. because there are going to be things that you did wrong. It's simply impossible to do a perfect game, even when it's perfect. Even the best game I think in the world would make some mistake, and I'm pretty sure it's true.
I think it's pretty much impossible to make a perfect game. Which, like, everyone will be like, that was the best. Like, even if, let's say, Witcher 3, people are like, oh my god, Witcher 3 is the best game ever. And then you go down a rabbit hole and you'll find people be like, it's the worst game ever. This character sucked, the story sucked. This, and you're like, okay, so for some people it's the best game ever, and for some people it's the worst game ever. So like, you can never win. So it's basically just build the game that your community wants, and then
Winning's not the game. I think you're here to make games because making games is good.
Of course, we want to listen to especially bad reviews and to bad feedbacks because we can learn from them. But I think that some of them are constructive, something that can help us getting the game better. Some of them are not, of course, are just maybe complaints or something like that that we can't do anything about them. So it's a balance, I think.
It's a balance.
Yeah.
And then, what do you see the future of Terrorbane? You see, like, there's gonna be a sequel, or there's a new game coming out for you guys? You're just gonna be chilling for the next, like, what's the vision for you guys' next move?
I think it's all very much up in the air right now. It depends a lot on our publisher. For Terrorbane specifically, it depends a lot on our energies and what happens in the next few weeks. I'd say it's still a bit early to be able to have a good idea of what will happen next. Our hope is to continue doing Terrorbane at least for a bit. Support this game, maybe even think about a sequel. It depends on the complete reception of the game. Or maybe we'll do something completely different, and hopefully our reputation will help us just go in another direction.
Yeah, it's the beginning of a great journey.
Let's hope so. Yeah.
And so now we're getting near the end of the podcast. So I'd like to ask about if you guys can come up with a question. I'm not a question, a challenge for the listeners. So I would like to have two, actually. If you guys can each come up with one just to give the listeners to do after this podcast, maybe one program, maybe one story wise. But yeah, you guys can take as much time as you need to think of this quick, short challenge.
I'd like to be a little selfish and say something to the players. As players, am I allowed that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
If your challenge is to go play our game, then yeah, it's a good challenge.
No, not that selfish. I think the thing I want the most from players at the moment, and maybe even people at the moment, is something like this. It's very right to speak about a lot of things passionately. It's very right to even talk about something you don't know anything about and tell your opinion convincingly. Just take a look that you don't go to the other side and kill it. I've noticed that people don't take a lot of responsibility in their bashing, for example. And I'm not talking about Terrorbane. Terrorbane has a good reputation, but I've seen many things around me, and as a creator, I bleed when I see something die from an opinion, which is the most flexible and less concrete thing we can come up with, I think, as humans. Opinions are very good and should be shared, but they shouldn't be taken that seriously that you kill something off. You lose something with that.
I agree 100%. And Luca, what about you? You got a little challenge?
You want a challenge? Well, maybe I could invite the players to find something about us in the game. That is actually yeah. They should be able to do so. There's a section that they can find where they can find something about us, ourselves, me, Matteo,
Our
and Andrea,
personality, yeah.
and go look for that.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna do that challenge. I'm gonna go
Okay.
play it and find you
Okay,
guys.
let us know if you find it.
Awesome. Well, guys, those amazing challenges. Appreciate you guys coming on and explaining the game and talking about your personal experiences. I'd like to end it off by just handing the mic to you guys, doing last minute shout outs, quotes, tips, however you want to end it off. And thanks again for coming on. And the mic's all yours, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
For having us.
Of course.
I'd like to give a shout out just on exit to our beautiful community of developers here in Italy, to Svilupparti, which is an association of developers here in our territory, and to IDEA, which is our national kind of community, and thank them a lot for everything they did for us.
Yeah. And I wanted to thank thanks Whisper Games, of course, our publisher that made all of that possible, because without them, many more less people would know the game. Yeah.
And that's it.
And so,
thanks a lot for having us. Thanks a lot for having us.
Thank you very much.